Hello and welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. Thanks for being here, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. I am excited for today's show. I get to speak again with Professor Richard Wolff, my favorite economist. I'd go as far as to say the world's favorite economist. Is always have a wonderful conversation. We're gonna be digging into Trump's tariffs and what they mean, what they could mean, what Trump thinks they mean, and so much more. I also later, after I speak with Richard Wolff, we'll be digging into some other things, such as Trump's offer to the entire CIA to resign, and his recent statements that the U.S. is going to take over the Gaza Strip. A lot coming up. But first, let's start. And please make sure to click thumbs up. Please throw a comment in the thread. All that stuff helps. Share with your friends. And let's do it. Here's Professor. Sorry. 1 second here. There we go. How are you?
Okay, glad to be here, Lee. It's been a while, and so we have some catching up to do.
We absolutely do. And Trump likes to leave everyone's head spinning with everything he's doing, attempting to do, laws he's trying to violate, all of the rest. But the main topic I want to get into is these tariffs, because, he gets into office, he immediately makes economic war with allies and enemies alike. And I guess the three big ones in terms of these tariffs that he's announced have been Canada, Mexico, and China. Now, Mexico and Canada have both announced deals that will delay it, but delay it by 30 days or something. It doesn't seem like it's going to last. And I want to learn what it is Trump thinks he's achieving and what the actual end result will be.
Okay, let's go backwards. The end result of what has happened so far in terms of the economic realities is a large bag of nothing. What friends of mine love this phrase, a nothing burger. Well, that does it. You just got a nothing burger. You took apart the two pieces of bread and there was nothing there. And you just spent money and you got nothing. This is performance art. We have a president who's a good performer, who knows how to capture people's anxieties, fears, nerves. He sells things, or he could be a seller. It is stunningly nothing. Let's go over the details. Number one, you're quite right. The president comes hot out of the gate of inauguration, and he's already threatening, and that has to be understood, threatening Mexico and Canada because they've never been dealt with by the United States like this, or at least not for a long time, because there's in effect a treaty originally called the NAFTA, NAFTA, signed back in the 1990s by Clinton, which was a free trade zone of the three countries. And they all signed it. And here's what it meant. Any good produced in any one of the three countries, US, Mexico, Canada, could pass a border to any of the other ones, no charge, no tax. And by the way, a tariff is just the name of a particular tax. It's a tax that you pay if you buy something that had to be imported because it was made in another country. So if you buy French wine and it has a tariff, the way it works is your liquor store dealer sells you the bottle of French wine. You have to give the owner $10. Let's say that's what the French winemaker charges. And then on top of it, there's this tax called a tariff, let's say 5%. Okay, then the liquor store has to collect from you $10 to pay for the wine from France, plus 50 cents, 5% of $10, that the store owner has to send to Uncle Sam. A tariff is a tax paid by Americans to the American government. Do not be fooled or misled by politicians who either out of ignorance or out of malice, try to suggest to you that when they impose a tariff, they impose it on another country. They can't do that. The American government cannot tax anybody but Americans. And a tariff is a tax on Americans who have to pay it to Uncle Sam. Now, it's interesting, even before I go on, to digest what I just said. For the last 100 years in the United States, the Republican Party has distinguished itself by being anti-tax. We're the party that won't charge you the tax. We'll cut the tax. Mr. Trump is the tax president. Tariffs are taxes. His whole program is to do what the Republican Party before him took the opposite position on. That's very interesting, and you ought to think about what that might mean. All right, now let's continue. We are the biggest market for Canadian exports. We are the biggest market for Mexican exports. So Mexico and Canada depend in a very, very big way on the United States. They have to have people in America buying what they have to sell, or it's going to hurt them, and hurt them a lot economically. All right, to put a 25% tariff, which is what the president proposed, means, if it goes into effect, that from one day to the next, from the day before it goes into effect to the day after, the price of everything coming into our country from either Mexico or Canada will cost 25% more than it did yesterday. You know what that means? Americans are going to buy fewer of them. They can't afford a 25%. Americans were screaming when the inflation rate was 9% in this country. Yeah. We're talking something orders of magnitude worse. So we're going to buy a lot less. We either do without, or we'll go and buy equivalent or maybe not so good things from other countries where there isn't a tariff that we have to worry about, because Mr. Trump singled out Canada and Mexico. It's not a general tariff that everything coming into the country might have to pay. You can do that, and Mr. Trump has threatened general tariffs that would apply to everybody. But in this case, because they're such long partners, it's out of the blue. There was no preparation. There was no conversation. There were no meetings held. I want to remind everyone, the United States is a signatory of the NAFTA agreement, which was rewritten and re-signed during Trump's first presidency between 2016 and 2020. Donald Trump's signature is on the treaty he just broke. Any other country looking at this would be out of its mind to make treaties with the United States, because not only did the U.S. break it, but no discussion, no meeting, no preparation, nothing. He just came down on these two countries with which we share thousands of miles of border, as if they were a hated enemy conveniently located, on the other side of the ocean. I mean, no one will understand. Only in America will there be mass media trying desperately to make this seem reasonable for the rest of the world. This is another sign of a rogue, weird country. And Americans who don't see that will be missing half the story.
It feels like an act of desperation. What is it he thinks? What is it he thinks he's achieving?
Well, I don't know what he thinks. Lord knows, don't let us go down that rabbit hole. But I can tell you what I think he is achieving. He's achieving what his campaigns achieved. America is broken. He's touching a nerve there. Most Americans think that one way or another. and I'm gonna fix it. I am Mr. Fix It. All these other Democrats, they can't fix it. I can fix it. Vote for me. Look, the Democrats had shown most Americans that they can't fix it. It's true enough. In his first term, he didn't fix anything either.
Yeah.
But, if you're looking at a Democrat who hasn't fixed anything, a Democrat who says she's going to do what her predecessor did, and he didn't fix anything. And here's a guy who says, I'll fix it. But that means he has to be Mr. Fix It. So he has to come out of the gate after his inauguration and show America, I'm hitting them and I'm doing this, and I'll whack the Chinese, and I'll scream at the president of Colombia. I will do, look at me. I'm a performance monkey. I'm out here fixing it. No one cares about the details. No one knows the history of Mexico or Canada. So there you have it. It's a show.
I guess he claims that you put tariffs on other countries, and then that will encourage corporations to have more workers and build more things in America, and that helps American workers. Does that ever happen?
No, tariffs have been around. This is painful, but I have to put on my hat as an economics professor. Tariffs have been around for centuries. There's nothing new about them. And because of that, every economics library you'll ever go to has reams and reams of books and articles all about tariffs. So we have lots of studies that tell us what tariffs can and cannot do. The reason Mr. Trump is using tariffs has nothing to do with how they work. He wouldn't know. He's not a student of this stuff. He's surrounded by advisors. Lord knows what they're telling him. But here's the reason he uses it. A few years ago, when no tariffs were being discussed, the United States Congress, mistakenly in my view, but gave the president the right to impose tariffs without going through the usual congressional approval and blah, blah, blah. We have a War Powers Act that says the president cannot attack another country or drop a bomb without getting congressional approval. Well, economic warfare isn't all that different, and I understand they may not abide by the law, but we don't even have a law. So Mr. Trump is free all by himself to whip around these tariffs. That's why he's doing it. He can be alone. He doesn't have to share the TV light with anybody else. I hit them today with a tariff, and then tomorrow them, and look at me whacking the bad guys around. Americans, and I ask them so often, they mostly don't know that a tariff is a tax put on Americans by the president, and the money goes to the American government. You're not whacking anybody else. You're whacking your own people. But the genius of Mr. Trump, and he gets it, you can put on a show where this kind of gets lost. Now, let me deal with the business we're protecting American jobs, because that, if you allow me, is total bullshit. Only an ignoramus who doesn't know about this will fall for this one. But it's clever to say it. I get that. It's clever to say it. So let's take an example, a real example. So I'm not making it up. 15 years ago, all the automobile companies in the world began a competition. They all saw the writing on the wall. We're leaving fossil fuel, gasoline-powered cars, and we're going to go to electric cars. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they all went to work to try to be the best winner of that competition. Okay, we now have a winner. A winner, my guess is many of the folks watching this program never heard of the winner. So let me be the first to tell you. If you already know, well, you can enjoy it anyway. It's the BYD Corporation. B for boy, Y for yellow, D for dog. BYD. This is a Chinese automobile company. They have produced the best by quality and the cheapest. That's what the competition was about. They produced the best, cheapest car. If you're in the business of buying an electric car, either a car for your own use or, more importantly, an input because you need trucks or cars for whatever your business is. So you have to buy them to do your business. They're inputs. If you want the best, cheapest input, you would have to go and get the BYD car. You get a really good electric vehicle for maybe $30,000, which, if you know the market, is a good deal. Okay, what this meant was everyone else producing electric cars and trucks has got a serious competitor. It'll take a few years, but if they don't come up with a better car, they are going to be losers, and BYD is the winner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you go to Europe, you'll see BYD cars and trucks all over the streets. If you go to many parts of the world, you'll see BYD. Here in the United States, not one. Now, why is that? Mr. Trump, when he was president, put an initial tariff, I believe about 25, 27% on electric vehicles from China. Mr. Biden, not to be outdone, raised it to 100%, which means if you're an American and you want to buy a BYD car or vehicle for 30 grand, here's what you'd have to do. You'd have to pay $30,000 to your dealer to get the car from China. And then your dealer would have to charge you an additional $30,000, 100%, which is money your dealer collects, but it's the tariff, and that money goes to Uncle Sam. China gets to $30,000, it charges everybody in the world. But you would have to pay $60,000. Guess what? You're not going to do it. You're going to settle for a not so good electric vehicle, which you can buy from an inferior producer, which includes, among others, Tesla, or GM or Ford or Toyota or any of the others. Because for you, you need to be competitive around the world. And all your competitors in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Europe are able to have cheaper, better electric vehicles than you, poor American, can afford. And now here comes the punchline. When the tariff against the electric cars were put in effect, whoever did it, Mr. Biden in one case, Mr. Trump in another, got bigger donations from Ford and GM and maybe Toyota because they were protected. They know they can charge $50,000 for a less good electric vehicle because they're protected. We can't buy the $30,000 Chinese vehicle because we have to pay the 100% tariff on top of it. So we won't buy the Chinese car. We'll buy the inferior car. That's great for General Motors and Ford. And maybe they will share their good fortune by not firing their workers, so it protects the auto workers, which is why Sean Fain, the head of the United Auto Workers, supports these tariffs. But for every other American producer, the producers of, I don't know, ice cream cones or glasses or software programs who need a truck to bring their raw materials to their workplace and a truck to take them to the stores. All the competitors of the United States out in the world are able to buy their trucks, the best quality, for $30,000, whereas their American competitor, schmuck that he is, has to pay $60,000 if he wants the same quality, or settle for only $50,000 for an inferior quality. You know what that means? It means that what this does is disadvantage 99.9% of American producers relative to their overseas competitors. Many of them are going to go out of business. And when they do, they're going to fire their workers. So here comes a $64,000 question. Will the number of automobile factory jobs protected be more or less than all the other jobs lost by having the damage done to the American producers from being unable, like their competitors, to access for 30 grand the best electric vehicle? And the answer is nobody knows that. That would take 6 months of research, and then you couldn't be all that sure. But there is no reason, none, to assume that the number of people whose job is protected is greater than the number of people whose job is jeopardized by the tariff. An honest politician would tell you that. We don't have that kind of politician. So here's a tragedy. Not only do the Republicans act as though they're protecting jobs, but the Democrats don't mock it, which they could do.
Right.
If I can explain it in 10 minutes, then I can sit down and write it out, and it would be less than a page to make the point. This is not complicated. This is not difficult.
If this may be, I don't know if it's too large of a question for the last 5 minutes I have you, but what is something that Trump or any president could do to help actual American workers fairly quickly? Like, what is it Trump should be doing if he actually wanted to help Americans?
What he ought to be doing is figuring out that a whole lot of the problems of the United States economically, and man, are they mounting and mounting fast. They ought to have the courage to say, whatever else we thought might be the problem, could it be that we organize our business so a tiny group of people sitting at the top, the owner, the guy who started the business, or in a corporation, which is where most of our economy is, the board of directors of 10 or 15 people, make all the decisions, what to produce, what technology to use, where to do the production, and what to do with the product. They make the decision, and guess what? They're in it to make money for themselves. That's why corporations get so much money at the top, because those are the people who decide who gets. Maybe our problem is, dare I say it, that we have a capitalist system which is dragging us down. This is a very serious issue, and nobody discusses it. Let me take one more minute. I would argue, I do argue all the time, that we are also an empire that is now declining. Our best years are behind us as an empire. That's the truth. Every empire that ever happened went up, and then it went down. We went up. Now we're going down. Nobody's fault. It's the way it works. But when you're going down, it's a lot less fun than when you're going up. And when you're going down, there are usually signs. Like in the Vietnam War, you went to war against the Communist Party of North Vietnam. You lost the war, and Vietnam has been run by that party ever since. Hello. A little while later, you fought a war in Afghanistan against the Taliban. You know who runs the Taliban now? Who runs Afghanistan? It's the Taliban. We lost. They won. In Iraq, we didn't win anything. And in Ukraine, we're in the middle of losing. That's not usually how empires succeed. That's how empires go down. And maybe you ought to say, Jesus, if we're going down, can we sit down with the country that's coming up and work out a livable deal? The United States and Britain were in this situation. After our Revolutionary War, we came up, they went down. We fought 2 wars. The United States won them. The British lost them. They went, oh my goodness. We sat down and they cut a deal. Now, I don't admire the deal. The deal was Britain gets every part of the world except the Western Hemisphere. You in America, you get the Western Hemisphere. We call that the Monroe Doctrine, and we referred to that as our manifest destiny. Bullshit. That was a deal cut between the rising and the falling. We ought to sit down with the Chinese and at least try to do it. What is the cost? The alternative is hostility between two nuclear powers. We all know where that could go. So let's ask questions we haven't dared to. That's what a courageous new politics would involve, not these aimless, pointless, nasty disputes between one group of politicians, I'm being polite, and another.
Thank you so much, Professor. You always have an excellent new book out there. What's the latest one?
It's called Understanding Capitalism. It's basically an argument that shows why we ought to be talking about our system. You know, we talk about our education system, we talk about our police system, we talk about our prison. We look at them, which is healthy, and see whether we can do better. But what in the world exempts the economics? Why is capitalism? You know, I don't know of any place in the
It's
Bible
religion.
or the Quran.
Religion.
That's right. It is. Except it has no book. The Bible doesn't say, thou shalt be a capitalist. Don't do that.
Well, everyone should check out that book and your videos. Thank you so much, Professor, for taking the time.
My pleasure, Lee. Look forward to doing it again.
Absolutely. All right, Professor Richard Wolff, thank you so much. And let's move on the show. Let's keep going. But you know, the amazing guests like that are the reason you tune into this show. So thanks for supporting us. Please click the thumbs up, click the share, click all those things. Don't forget that we are also a podcast. So check that out. It's called Moment of Clarity on most platforms. It's called The Lee Camp Show on Spotify because they banned the Moment of Clarity. So yeah, check that out. If you ever aren't able to watch the video and you just want to get the audio, do it that way. Thank you so much. I also should take a minute to give you the new link if you want to check out our Discord conversation, tinyurl.com/unredacted Discord. If you find it weird that I'm listing a different link for that every week, so do I. But hopefully this one won't expire like the others did. Anyway, we're all having a great time there, and you can come hang out there. And I'll let you know again that Unredacted Tonight, my new show, working my ass off to create it, completely independent. And it will be starting in 2 to 3 weeks, maybe just 2 weeks if we're lucky, but let's say 3 weeks. And if you want to find out when it comes out and all that stuff, then make sure you're a part of the email list, the free email list. You go to leecamp.com, a pop-up will ask you to join the free email list, and that's how you will find out about the new show, Unredacted Tonight. Okay. Let's keep going here, though. I have a lot of other important news I want to cover. Let's see here. I'm going to play. I know it's always painful when I do this, but I'm going to play like 1 or 2 minutes of Donald Trump talking about, he publicly announced, you may have heard, publicly announced ethnic cleansing, that the U.S. will be involved in ethnic cleansing, which it's very rare. I'm not saying Biden didn't want to do this too, but it's very rare that you say it in front of the world. Hey, we'd like to commit ethnic cleansing. But he did just that. Here he is with a fellow war criminal standing next to him, Netanyahu. And it's a love fest between two sociopathic war criminals. And let's be clear, two American sociopathic war criminals. Netanyahu grew up in Pennsylvania, went to MIT, worked at Boston Consulting. So it's two good old-fashioned American sociopathic war criminals. And take it away, the slightly fatter war criminal. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm glad that Donald Trump is body positive.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that. We're a respected nation again. A lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. We are actually a very respected nation.
Ah, he has the best comedy sketches. Killer comedian. We are now respected again, folks. He has to let you know that because otherwise no one would know that America is respected again, because they look around and go, nah. But he literally just publicly called for ethnic cleansing. He publicly said the United States is going to take over Gaza. He said we're going to level the buildings that are not leveled. So basically finishing the ethnic cleansing and genocide. And then he said that the people will be moved elsewhere. He then said that again in this meeting with Netanyahu. And he also, as he continues to say these things, which, by the way, they have walked back some of them, but that doesn't mean it's not what he wants. It just means they realized it wasn't a good look slightly. But I'll get to that in a minute. But as he continues to say these things, it's like he doesn't even know he's standing next to the genocidal murderer who did them, who committed them. Like it would be like standing next to Jeffrey Dahmer in the kitchen of one of the people he murdered and going, we're gonna fix this up, we're gonna clean this house up real nice, me and Jeffrey, because this is just not a way to live, with blood all over the walls and body parts in the fridge. This is just not. So yeah, why would you want to live here? This is just, so me and Jeffrey here are we're gonna make this real nice. Never acknowledging Jeffrey's the one who did it. He's standing next to Netanyahu as he says this stuff. He's like, why would you want to live there? You mean because Netanyahu has leveled 90% of the buildings and murdered tens of thousands, 47,000, not even including disease and famine? Oh, what a psychopath on such an unbelievable level. Okay, but here he is. He actually kind of makes it even worse. as if listing your potential future war crimes wasn't enough. He continued, doubled down. He's announcing this in the White House. This now he's seated next to Netanyahu, and Netanyahu is grinning like a mischievous cat. Remember that this is one of the few countries in the world, the United States, that Netanyahu can actually travel to without being arrested, because the United States refuses to sign on to the ICC, whereas many countries, Netanyahu would be arrested right now.
Peter?
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my...
Sorry, in case I was too quiet for you. The reporter asked, would the Palestinians be allowed to return to Gaza, return to their homes, after they've been ethnically cleansed from the area by Donald Trump and the U.S. government? Would they be allowed to return? And here's Trump's response.
I hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth.
One reporter with a spine yells out, why did they leave? Because he's literally sitting next to a smiling Netanyahu as he says this stuff. He's like, my hope is they wouldn't want to return. So, but just let's just take him at his word for a second, that you move them and you hope they wouldn't want to return. Well, who's going to live there then? Who's going to be there? Oh, Israelis? You mean that all of the Gazans will be kicked out, all the Palestinians will be kicked out, and Israelis will live there? That is the dictionary definition of ethnic cleansing. And his speech right here and his talking, it actually furthers the ICC case, because one of the toughest things to prove with genocide and ethnic cleansing is intent. And Donald Trump is sitting there saying, no, our intent is to get rid of all Palestinians, move them out. That's our intent. And when you say it publicly like that, it makes actually the International Criminal Court case far easier, like 1,000,000 times easier when it's said publicly. So I guess for that, you can thank Donald Trump.
And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through a massive...
You can't live there. Why can't you? Why is it unlivable in Gaza? Does it have anything to do with Netanyahu and Israel? Is there any kind of connection there? I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could like brainstorm, sit around with a bunch of smart people, get Elon Musk over here. Maybe he'll be able to figure out why. And of course, I'm laughing. He's a psychopath too. But maybe we'll be able to get smart people in the room. Maybe we'll be able to figure out why Gaza is not so livable anymore. Because I'm not sure what it is. Not sure why it happened. Why is it so hard to live there?
Amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area.
That was people's real concern. As you're doing your ethnic cleansing, are there going to be a lot of different areas for us to go to when we're ethnically cleansed? Or is it going to be just the one? Because, you know, I have some family members I want some distance from. Yeah, thank you, Trump. That's the question people were asking. How many areas will they get to be ethnically cleansed into? The survivors. That was the big question at the front of people's minds right there.
But you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die. Because Gaza is
again, it's the passive. Like they can live there and not die. Why are they dying? Oh, Israel. That's why they're dying. That's why. You're sitting next to the man. In fact, if he were to handcuff Netanyahu to that chair and ball gag him and leave him there for the next 17 to 39 years, it would help Gazans immensely. Like, just handcuff the dude next to you and you would solve this problem. It's unbelievable. I mean, I know there's psychopaths waiting in the wings of Netanyahu in Israel. So Netanyahu gets put in prison. You got the next guy doing the same thing. So it was more of the idea. If you have to arrest the entire ruling structure of Israel, which I support.
Guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again.
I guarantee they're going to end up dying. Let's rephrase that. I guaranteed Israel is going to assassinate civilians that are still surviving, that are still there. He just guaranteed that to the world. I guarantee you Israel will still keep murdering everyone there. That's what he's saying. He just said it in different words. This is what I mean when I say Trump accidentally reveals the U.S. empire. Like, he doesn't even understand what he's revealing. He doesn't even understand the things he's saying are furthering war criminal cases and genocide cases in international criminal courts. He doesn't get it. Doesn't know.
Happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back?
And by the way, so this is, as I've said, dictionary definition of ethnic cleansing, moving everyone out of Gaza. I had said that this was largely Israel's aim in the first place. Yes, it is a genocide, and even if Israel stopped killing today, it's still a genocide. People like to pretend that genocide means you have to kill every one of them. No, every one of whatever your target people is. No, that's not how the definition of genocide works. Definition of genocide is trying to kill all or a part of a group of people. And so it's still genocide. Even if they stop today, it's still genocide. It seemed very much, and I think it may continue to seem this way, that Israel wanted to clear out Gaza so that it could take it over. Because they do not want Palestinians, Gazans, those in the West Bank to be viewed as refugees, which is what they are. Because if they're viewed as refugees, then guess what? Under international law, in the minds of most people that are not sociopaths, refugees have a right to go back to where they're from if they have that capability. If they want to, if they have that right. But Israel doesn't want them to have that right, because then guess what? You can't have all the stolen land. And the people would come back and occupy the land where they were originally from. Many of them still have the keys to their houses that were stolen by Israel. Anyway, Trump has accidentally made all this public. I think I did a pretty good job pushing back, but let's hear from Francesca Albanese. Or is it Albanese? I always get it wrong. Hey, thank you, Philip, for joining up, becoming a member on YouTube. And yeah, thanks, Philip, for joining up. And if you guys want to join up to my other page, the main page to support this show, it's at leecamp.net. But okay, so here she is. She's amazing, UN Rapporteur, and she is always one of the best and clearest voices on this genocide. And here is her response to Trump's statement.
President Trump, where to start? The short answer to your question is what he proposes is utter nonsense.
Is what?
Utter nonsense. Is nonsense. And it's unlawful. What he proposes, people talk of ethnic cleansing. No, it's worse. It's worse. It's forced displacement. He's inciting to commit forced displacement, which is an international crime. Forced displacement and further dispossession. And in the context of a genocide, it will strengthen the complicity in the crimes that Israel has been committing over the past 15 months and before. It's unlawful, immoral, and irresponsible. It's completely irresponsible because it will make the regional crisis even worse. And I truly hope that people will stay calm, will not panic, and will remember that the international community is made of 193 states. And this is the time to give the US what it has been looking for, isolation. We have survived 15 months of relentless bombing and killing, including through sniper fires. There is documentation of children who have been shot in the torso and in the head. And they have been living in tents without any access to water, any dignified access to water, shelter, food. And this is art.
Sorry. Yeah, she does an amazing job and points out that this is illegal under international law. Ultimately, apparently no one knew Trump was going to say that before he walked out there. He told Netanyahu like 5 minutes before or something. And the White House is now slightly walking it back. But I think the main reason they're walking it back, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that the countries that Trump is saying should take in Palestinians have always said that they will not do that because they do not want to facilitate ethnic cleansing. One of the key countries being Egypt. Egypt has said that if this plan were to go through, they would rip up their peace agreement with Israel. And Egypt is no amazing humanitarian country, but they do not want to allow further ethnic cleansing of Gazans. And so they have said this is a non-starter. So these countries that Trump thinks are going to take in Gazans have said absolutely not. But then it seems the main reason they're now backtracking is just because all the Trump supporters, the Republicans, everything are like, wait, there's going to be boots on the ground, U.S. boots on the ground in Gaza, which is not something that a lot of Trump supporters like to hear. Because if you're going to send people in to fix up Gaza and to get rid of, as Trump said, unexploded ordinances, that sounds a lot like the military. So here is from Consortium News. U.S. officials backtrack on Trump's illegal Gaza gambit a day after all hell broke loose in reaction to Trump's plan to remove 1.8 million Palestinians from Gaza, which he said the U.S. would rebuild. Administration officials began backtracking as it emerged that only Trump himself knew he would make the plan public. Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, 4'2" Marco Rubio said on Wednesday that Palestinians would be allowed to move back in, which was not what Trump had said the day before. So, I mean, but also, could you imagine a country as disgusting, as morally bankrupt as the United States government moving all the Palestinians out of Gaza, fixing up Gaza to look beautiful, and then moving them all back in? Oh, yeah, that just reeks of The U.S. That is exactly how we function all the time. We just rebuild places and then put the refugees back. God, I couldn't tell you how often we do that. During the White House press briefing, Leavitt, the new White House press secretary, showed photos in the briefing room of the destruction of Gaza, as though people needed to see what Israel had done, except this White House never admits that Israel did it. Well, neither did the last one, really. As if Consortium News says, as if the destruction was the result of a natural disaster rather than from the maniacal genocidal attacks by the state of Israel, fully supported by the United States. Trump, you see, is trying to provide disaster relief. It's a natural disaster. Israel bombing children is just a natural disaster. Who could have seen this coming? There was nothing we could do. What are we to do? Here's a quote from Trump. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently with nice homes and where they can be happy and not shot at, not be killed, not be knifed to death by Israel, say those words, I would think that they would be thrilled, he said. I see a long-term U.S. ownership position in Gaza. Steve Witkoff, U.S. Special Envoy of the Middle East, said that Trump doesn't want to put any U.S. troops on the ground and he doesn't want to spend any U.S. dollars in Gaza. Well, that sounds like the opposite of what he was proposing. Besides, it's already U.S. dollars in Gaza. It's U.S. dollars in the bombs that drop on Gaza. He only told a beaming Prime Minister Netanyahu about it moments before they walked out on stage. The New York Times reported inside the U.S. government there have been no meetings with the State Department or the Pentagon or that as would normally occur for any serious foreign policy proposal, let alone one of such magnitude. There had been no working groups. The Defense Department had produced no estimates of the troops required or cost estimates. There was little beyond an idea inside the president's head. I mean, this is how insane he is. Wow. Such a lunatic on all levels. Saudi Arabia said it will not cease its tireless work to ensure the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as the capital. The kingdom will not form diplomatic relations with Israel without this. It is nice that Israel's saying that Saudi Arabia is saying that they would not allow for this plan that Trump put out there. But Saudi Arabia's also been pretty shitty on stopping this genocide. It has not really stepped up to do much of anything. Trump had left no doubt on Tuesday that this would be permanent forced relocation of 1.8 million people in clear violation of international law. Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention prohibits the forced transfer of protected people out of or into occupied territory, and customary international law considers involuntary population transfers to be illegal. But the problem is, and I've said this for a while about Democratic administrations, that they could use it positively if they actually cared about people, which they don't, that when presidents say things, they can often have ramifications, even if, as in this case, there is no planning. It's kind of half backtracked. There's been no effort to actually do what he said. It's still, the words can have ramifications. And here is one example of those ramifications. The Israeli war chief, the head of it's what we call the Defense Department. The Israeli war chief orders the army to plan for the voluntary departure of Palestinians from Gaza. Of course, even if people depart Gaza, it's not voluntary. If you've murdered their whole family and blown up all their hospitals, that's not voluntary. That's killing them until they leave. And of course, many of them want to leave, right? It's understandable when you're being genocided. I think a lot of people want to get out of the way of a genocide. I don't think anyone can fault them for that. For those who want to leave, but they've not been allowed to leave. They are in a prison. All the gates are closed. They are in a prison. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said on February 6th that he has instructed the military to ready plans for a transfer of a large number of Palestinians to exit Gaza via land, air, and sea routes while parsing U.S. President Trump's calls to expel the Strip's residents to different countries. Katz said he ordered the Israeli army to prepare plans for the voluntary departure. Why do they keep saying that? It's like the third time. I support President Trump's bold proposal. Residents of Gaza should have the freedom to leave and immigrate as is standard worldwide. Oh, now he wants them to have freedom. Now the head of the Israeli army wants Gazans to have freedom. Well, that's a new one. That's a first. Trump has been insisting on the idea of expelling the residents of Gaza to neighboring countries, namely Jordan and Egypt, both of whom have categorically rejected any mass displacement of Palestinians and rejected the president's calls. But so Trump says this, then you have Israel start to gear up for this type of thing. And it can start to take on a life of its own. Now, I've said this could be done positively, like let's say Obama or Biden gave speeches every day on ending the prison industrial complex, even if they can't just sign an executive action that ends the prison industrial complex. The speeches would have a major impact. You'd see the stock in private prisons tank. Like, it has an impact. Just the speeches have an impact. And if they actually gave the tip of a turd about, I don't know, the U.S. being the largest prison state in the world, or average people, or people struggling, or poor people, each of these speeches would have a major impact, but they don't. None of them do, because they're all psychopaths. Okay, I want to move on before I run out of time. And don't forget to hit subscribe, hit share, all those good things. Let me give you a schedule update for those of you who didn't hear me give it the other day. So I'm getting ready to launch this new show, Unredacted, tonight. And in order to do that, I've had to change my schedule a little bit. For right now, the only schedule change is that there won't be members-only Fridays anymore. Instead, the members-only segments will be sometimes after live streams. I'll probably do one or two next week. But so that means Fridays, there will no longer be a live stream. For several months, it's been members only on Fridays. I need to spend that time working on the new show. So the schedule change is that this show, Dangerous Ideas, will be Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And that will be the schedule each week for now. That is the only schedule change for now. I may have to have another schedule change later, but for now, that's it. But if you sign up at leecamp.net, you still get all kinds of perks. You still get extra segments. You still get all kinds of cool shit. So do it! Please support it. No. What if the rest of the show was just 30 minutes of ugly crying? Just a hard, ugly cry. 30 minutes. Would you know how it would be a good way to test who the biggest fans are? How long you keep watching the ugly cry, unless you're watching for amusement, in which case that doesn't really count as big fans, I guess. Okay, so let's get to these last few stories. Now, you could view this as a plus, as a positive, as something positive Donald Trump is doing or trying to do. But give me a minute to maybe get a little deeper here before we celebrate. If you haven't heard, Trump has also offered his mass buyout resignation offer to the entirety of the CIA workforce. He has said, basically, and he said this to the rest of the federal government, he has said to the entire CIA, you can resign now, you'll get paid in full through September, you'll get to keep your benefits through September, or if you refuse to resign, then you might get fired with none of this. You might get fired with no extra month's pay and all that stuff. Now, here's the thing is I get, if you want to celebrate and go, oh my God, he's trying to get rid of the CIA. This is amazing. Go Donald Trump. Yes, he's a lunatic on other things, but on this thing, all right, getting rid of the CIA. Here's why. And it's really the only reason why I don't think you can celebrate this is because his only reason for doing this is because he wants to put in his goons in the CIA. I mark my word, the CIA is not going to stop doing all their horrible shit around the world. There is no version of reality where Trump gets rid of the CIA and stops them from committing coups, assassinations, destruction, setting people up for lawfare coups, surveillance, everything. There is no version of this world where Donald Trump just ends the CIA. He'll just put in his goons into the CIA. And even if he were to like sign something tomorrow that got rid of the CIA, again, mark my word, he'd have his own version. He'd just name it something else, the Trump IA or something. The Central Intelligence Agency on Tuesday became the first major national security agency to offer so-called buyouts to the entire workforce. And here's from CBS News. And by the way, liberals are losing their minds because suddenly liberals love the CIA. When did that switch happen? All of a sudden, neoliberals who used to be like the ones who would actually try and hold the intelligence agencies to some kind of account, some tiny little whisker of a twat hair of accountability. Instead, they now love the CIA and the FBI. Instead, they're rubbing one out to them. This got very dirty very fast. CIA offers buyout to all the employees. Confirmed Wednesday that they've been offered to volunteer to resign. And then they go on to say, actually, no, it's not everyone. While the CIA received an agency-wide message similar to the email sent to the Office of Personnel Management personnel, the Office of Personnel Management personnel? Okay, they're just typing words and not even listening to the sentence. Eligibility for CIA personnel is limited and based on mission requirements of certain employees, CBS News has learned. Basically, if you're out there and you're in the CIA and you're currently involved in destroying lives or ripping up a country that's like peaceful and probably socialist, if you're currently busy on that, we're not gonna fire you. So you keep going. If you're just currently, you've got it. Listen, folks. You got to be in the middle of destroying a country. We're not, everyone else, you should resign, or we would like for you to resign. But for those of you who really, we caught you in the middle of destroying millions of lives, you can stay there, okay? Because you got work to do. So anyway, I get that this sounded, I know that a lot of left-wing people, a lot of anti-war people were probably very excited about this. I don't know that it's any different than Trump just putting in his goons into the CIA. Okay, couple more things on before I wrap up. USAID, which I already did a segment. This seems to be the main agency that Trump and Elon Musk have torn up. By the way, some, including David Sirota, have said it might have something to do with the fact that USAID was starting to look into Starlink because USAID had been involved in the Starlink deal with Elon Musk's Starlink that allowed the Ukrainian military to stay connected during their proxy war with Russia. And anyway, there was some investigation, like the inspectors were looking into the deal with Elon Musk, and now that information has now been purged from websites and stuff. So there's something going on there. But anyway, this seems to be the main agency so far that Trump and Musk are shredding, as opposed to just asking people to resign. And again, a lot of liberals think that USAID is the AID is the best thing to help other countries. Man, have they been helping? No, of course, they're a coup-creating organization. Here's from WikiLeaks. USA, and I already covered this, but I'm adding more information to it. That's why I'm doing it some more. USAID was funding over 6,200 journalists. USAID was the biggest creator of U.S. propaganda around the world as of like a week ago. They were funding over 6,200 journalists across 707 media outlets and 279 quote unquote media NGOs, including 9 out of 10 media outlets in Ukraine. 9 out of every 10 media outlets in Ukraine are USAID, U.S. propaganda. That's unbelievable. And WikiLeaks on their Twitter feed has the actual quotes. all over the world, media outlets and organizations have had to halt some of their activities overnight. We have articles scheduled until the end of January. I got to be honest, I had no idea that I knew USAID was involved in coup creating, and that's like its main function. I had no idea that it was involved in this much media. This is an unbelievable amount of propaganda funded by USAID around the world. 6,200 journalists. Fucking incredible. So, and again, I don't think Trump and Musk quite understood that they're like decreasing America's ability to coup other countries, because we know Trump loves couing other, like he's fine with that. No issue there. Here's another one from WikiLeaks. By the way, if you're not following WikiLeaks Twitter, you surely totally should, at WikiLeaks. They're doing even better work now that Julian Assange is out. I don't know that he's even involved. I think he's probably not involved. But I just mean, I think they probably feel freer to swing for the fences now that he's free. USAID contractor Dan Mitrione ran torture training for Latin American regimes backed by the CIA. A USAID contractor was running torture programs for the CIA. Once satisfied, Mitrione began teaching human anatomy and the human nervous system to elite Uruguayan police officials handpicked by USAID for counterinsurgency training in America. Then, according to a CIA double agent secretly working for Cuba and corroborated by a journalist, Mitrione began performing gruesome live torture demonstration on homeless beggars. Jesus Christ, dude. This is insane. 4 of Mitrione's human guinea pigs were tortured to death. Holy shit. This is USAID for you. CIA refused to comment. It's fucking disgusting. Yeah, USAID, that aid organization. They're doing aid around the world. And again, in case I need to repeat this, Trump and Musk are not shredding USAID because they are upset with their wrongdoing. They're shredding USAID because they thought it was helping people, I think. Because they thought that literally its main function was, like, one of the things I covered it the other day, Trump mentioned, was that they sent condoms to Gaza, to Hamas in Gaza. That's not what happened. They sent condoms to the Gaza region in Mozambique, but he just saw the word Gaza, or one of his staff did, and said, "We're sending condoms to Gaza? What the? Like, it really is like having a hillbilly in the White House, isn't it? But so they do things like that in order to cover everything else they do. So they send these condoms to Mozambique, and that is why Trump and Musk are shredding USAID, is because they think it's actually an aid organization. Okay, last thing. And unfortunately, I don't mean to insult Spanish, but fortunately or unfortunately, this is Evo Morales talking about USAID. I'm going to have to read it because the translation, because he's speaking Spanish. And I think a lot of you don't speak Spanish. I'm sure some of you do. I actually took, here's Richmond, Virginia public schools for you. I took 6 years? No, I think 4 years of Spanish, 5 years of Spanish. Don't understand Spanish. I did. There was a time where if you spoke really slowly, I could understand Spanish, but it's long gone. So I'm just going to play with the sound off and read it. This is Evo Morales talking back in, I think they said 2009, ahead of his time on USAID. Said, "I want to inform you, we've decided to expel USAID from Bolivia." He said, USAID is leaving Bolivia. I asked the brother chancellor to immediately communicate it to the U.S. embassy. Never again, USAID, who manipulates our leaders, our colleagues, with handouts. So there it is. He, and this is a speech from many years ago. Oh, sorry, I said 2009. 2013, Evo Morales booted USAID from Bolivia because he understood what its aim actually was, which is to create coups. And if you're him, why are you going to allow a coup-creating organization to remain in your country when their goal is to like get you killed? So, all right. So I wanted to add that basically to my segment the other day about USAID. Okay, folks. So I will see you Monday because the new schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I'm not doing the members only Fridays for now, but I will do members only segments next week and in the following weeks. But all of this is in the build up to Unredacted tonight. I would love your support. I would love for you to think of ways to spread the word once it's out. And I hope you really like it. I hope you really enjoy Unredacted tonight. It's for those of you, this is the first you're hearing about it. It's going to have the same feeling, the same flair, the same giant group of writers, this guy, of Redacted tonight. But it is going to be independent. It's going to be smaller budget, and it's going to be just me. Don't have the money or the resources for the correspondence, but I think it should be a lot of fun and an important show, hopefully, if I can get it going. And join us over on Discord for the hang. tinyurl.com/unredacted Discord. If you want to support the show, join up at leecamp.net or patreon.com/leecamp. I will see you Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Keep fighting.